Welcome to the Vegan Stew. I think I messed up my words there, but that's okay. Welcome to the Vegan Stew. I'm Helene, I'm part of the Stew crew, and I'm sure Ellen is on her way. So I was working on that right before we went like this, put me on the screen. So let's say thank you to Hodo Foods for, hi, Deb. Thanks for joining us. Thank you to Hodo Foods for being a sponsor of Virtual Veg Fest Live and all our shows for the month of October. Happy almost Halloween. We'll touch on that tonight as well. If you'd like to win prizes, go to virtualvegfestlive.com, hit the contest tab, and you can win a prize pack from Terra Seed, Hodo Foods, Veg Key, Rebel Cheese, Sinaholic, Familish, or Bernie Wild's Adventure Sauce. And we're going to have 2 more prizes next month for you to possibly win. Nobody else gives prizes away like we do. So very simply, you just go, you hit the contest tab, and you do things like liking people's social media, our sponsors' social media, getting points for that. And then we pick a winner at the beginning of the following month. Topic tonight, divided households. Do you live in one? Have you worked in an environment where somebody wasn't vegan? I'm pretty sure that's probably been the case. So we're going to expand on that and see where we go. Current events, everything. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know that when we go live, you get notified. And you can do that with Virtual Veg Fest too. So here comes, who's on our secret tonight? We've got Marla Rose with Vegan Street. And we've got Kelly from Climate Healers. And I'm pretty sure we got Ellen working on it. So yes and yes. Okay, Deb. I don't even know what the yes and yes was to because I am not probably not be able to follow along. Let's see. I'm going to throw it to Kelly for a second. Give us some sort of thing about the climate world that everyone should know.
Everyone should know. We don't have much time left. How about that? I've been reading articles in about like the decline of like land mammals, wild mammals, right? Like they're bringing that into mainstream news. So, they're starting to talk about it. And Dr. Rao from Climate Healers talked about that. That's what Vegan World 2026 was. He chose 2026, because that was his granddaughter's 16th birthday, but also because that is taking the numbers of the current decline. That is when we will get to zero land mammals at the current rate of decline, right? And the numbers that I'm seeing in these articles, they match that decline, right? They're talking about how severe it is. So yeah,
we can't. We're not doing very well with our numbers. Yes, Dr. Rao is amazing. We all agree with that. The Paris Accord, he comes. Ellen's there. So the Paris Accord, we're not meeting the numbers. So I think I saw a little glimpse of we're over, like 40% off, 40 something percent off, if I was reading that correctly, with the agreement that we all agreed as a world that we're back in to, do something about, take care of the planet. Not really happening. So something on the happier side, which I'm not quite sure, is our article happy? Marla?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just contemplating how I'm going to my life. No, I'm kidding. I should. Yeah, no, the article, the news story I'm reporting on is good. I mean, it's just like everything's such baby steps. We need so much more participation. But okay, so it's definitely a good story. LA City Council, Los Angeles City Council, just adopted the plant-based treaty, the largest city in not only North America but the world, to adopt this. And it is a doctrine that proposes transitions away from animal agribusiness and toward plant-based sustainable living. So there's like 3 R's to it, which is relinquish, meaning transitioning more. Relinquish part is no more expansion of animal ag. In the areas that agree to this. Redirect redirect toward plant-based alternatives and restore lands, like kind of what Kelly was talking about, back to that are less that are just sustainable and more healthy. So this is the person behind this is Anita Crank, who is from Toronto Pig Save, and it's a 200 group coalition. Buenos Aires just signed on to it, and the mayor of Los Angeles still has to sign it for full information, but it's going to be presented to the mayor. There's a giant mayor's conference coming up, the C40 something, the World Mayors Summit, and they're going to try to really encourage participation and engagement and adopting. It's like there's so much of everything. It's frustrating because so much feels like lip service and so much feels like it's just not as aggressive as it needs to be, but they are steps, and this is good. This is good news.
That's great news. You with us, Ellen?
I'm getting my exercise for the day.
Ellen's got all of her dog leashes and collars behind her.
And her hair looks great. You got your hair done.
Oh, like I haven't showered in days. I've been behind the books or the computer screen watching PCRM videos. Sorry.
That's great to know, but at least you have power and internet. And how was the damage at your house? Because what we're talking about is we're going to go back to Hurricane Ian, because it did impact Ellen a couple of trips to North Carolina.
And that storm just kept running after me. It was crazy. I went to, I thought I should get ahead of the storm if I was going to be speaking at the Asheville Veg Fest that you amazingly organized. And so my neighbor said, well, I left 5 days early ahead of Hurricane Irma. That was the last big one we had through here. And it wasn't enough. I got stuck on I-75. So the storm was hit Wednesday, Thursday. I headed out on Monday and was terrified that I wasn't going to make it. Loaded up the car with canned beans and other canned goods, and just hit the road. And it was fine. Didn't have any trouble. But of course, the storm headed up the coast. So as you might have expected, the event and many of the others were canceled. So I drove back to Florida and then came back up two weeks later when it was rescheduled. So, that part was fine. And, really, I have nothing to complain about. I've been so overwhelmed with catch-up. I mean, it was basically like I was gone for 3 weeks. And even though, I stayed mobile and did what I could, there were just some things I couldn't do. And I'm also this instructor online. I teach as many as 3 classes a day for this Get Set Up organization. And it's on veganism mostly, as well as fitness. And so I was doing that remotely, and it was just all insane. But as far as damage, major trees were uprooted. I did a post on Facebook this weekend. We went out to our barrier island where most of the locals go. And, John Ringling, it was bad enough that he invented circuses, right? And animals to the epitome like we have never experienced. But he also thought Australian pines were beautiful trees in Australia. So Southwest Florida should have them. And he got up in a plane and just dumped seeds all up and down the Southwest coast. So these trees are magnificent in Australia, but they don't belong in Southwest Florida. They have a very shallow root system, and it's kind of like just going poof, and they blow over and take the whole soil around them with them because they have a very wide, shallow root bulb. And we saw some of these. It was just incredible. They were my boyfriend was there, and I have a picture of him, and the tree completely uprooted all the roots. It was like 3 times as tall as he was. That's how, just to give you some perspective of the damage. But there was, I mean, just bizarre things. South of us in Venice, which is about 30 minutes to our south, there was this theater that we had been to see live productions, and it had been restored, and it was just beautiful. And it just sliced it in half, took out everything inside. And the bizarre thing is, we went there this weekend because we wanted to support this Italian restaurant that was across the street, and they allowed dogs, and they have a big dog beach in Venice that just reopened. And the beach was actually fine. But so we went to the restaurant, and the theater lights that were stories tall, because that's where the top of the roof was, they were still there. I mean, but the back part of the stage was just, I mean, that whole wall was gone, and you could see right in, and the roof was gone.
Sounds like a tornado.
Yeah. Yeah. And
tornado is so indiscriminate.
Yeah. And, a friend of mine said to me, "You'll never regret having evacuated." And as a reporter, I covered some minor hurricanes, Cat 1s in Miami, but it was just enough to know that I never really wanted to be around if there was a serious one. And we had, the first summer I moved down officially to Southwest Florida in 2004 or 5, we had like 5 hurricanes that summer, and we lost power for 2 of them for 2 weeks. And a lot of people lost power that long here. I think most everybody's been restored now. But just the destruction and the idea that the people who stayed here in Sarasota, I mean, we do a dog walking group every morning with our dogs, and any woman who was here, I mean, it's all women in our group. They just said they were scared shitless. And I can't imagine having been here. My boyfriend stayed here with the dog and with Princess the dog and Pumpkin the cat, and they just held their bodily functions for a while. And that was the thing that everybody said, it lasted so long. It just, it wasn't like some of the past hurricanes that kind of went through in a few hours and they were done. This was here for like almost the whole day. So we were very lucky.
It rained up here for 15 hours. I mean, in North Carolina, 15 hours it rained. And of course, like a major tree came down in our yard, grazed our house.
Saw that.
I was like, it is still raining. It just rained and rained. And it wasn't like a light rain. It was heavy, windy, stormy rain. And
did you guys flood?
Did we do what? Well, I didn't lose power.
Did you flood?
I mean, I don't live where it can flood.
Oh, okay.
So I'm very fortunate. Yeah, very fortunate. And it just, I mean, it rained, it flooded in Raleigh, it flooded in areas of the triangle, but where my house is, we don't flood. And I mean, there's poor neighbors that probably did because they bought a house that there's a hill that comes down and water goes downhill, and they have a driveway that angles down. So that's what water does. And as a realtor, Ellen, that if someone's going to buy a house with a driveway that angles down into your garage on a hill, a rain can come down and then go down into your house. You made a choice. It's going to flood.
I mean, it's kind of a basic thing. Even in a mild rain, you're going to get that down. I mean, I remember my father saying it when I was really young. Never buy a house where the driveway goes down. Okay, right.
But it's one of those things. Being someone who also has a real estate license in multiple states, I would advise against a house with a driveway that angles down. But some of you might have it, and if you flood, that might be one of the reasons. Besides the fact that it rains more and there's torrential storms, and Deb said for Arizona, can't imagine how terrifying a hurricane is. We're experiencing more and more microbursts, droughts, and wildfires here in Arizona. Yes, and a governor. And
one of the most powerful graphics that I remember, because I ran up to my boyfriend's mother's house, who lives near Asheville. And we were just watching TV the whole time. And the most powerful graphic I saw was a model of Hurricane Charlie, which came through here about 15 years ago. And the entire hurricane, with all of its pinwheel rain bands, fit inside the eye of Ian. Inside the eye. I mean, this was a monster storm of rain and wind, and all these melting ice caps have to go somewhere. So this is why Inconvenient Truth, hope everybody saw that, is just, it's coming true big time. I mean, he really nailed that prediction. And the way it'll work out in the winter is there's more moisture, so we're going to have more snowstorms. And of course, people are going to say, "Oh, it's a blizzard. It can't be global warming." But yeah,
That's not how it works. Well, to keep us on topic, Sherry, thank you for today. We didn't really get a lot of catch-up time before we went live, so we're kind of doing that for you in front of you. But our topic today is divided households. And what does that mean? Well, it could be in the house that you live in and the partner or people that you live with. How many people make the decision one day to start eating whole food plant-based, Marla, don't do that, whole food plant-based and eat vegan or become vegan, and their partner says no, and their kids are like, you're out of control. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Now you've got separate meals. Or couples that make the decision together, because we have that here too. You find someone that you're with who is vegan. You, of course, write a book about it. So let's get you right now. And then you have someone like me who lives with someone who's not vegan, but the house is vegan. And it's not an impact, but we have had conversations about maybe having some things that aren't. And he's watching, so I need to watch what I say. So who wants to start? Ellen, start us off. You wrote a book about it. That's how important it was.
Yeah, because my last and ex-husband was not vegan, and he had heart disease big time, and his best friend, who reversed his prostate cancer on a vegan diet, said, you live with one of the best vegan cookbook authors in America. Why don't you just eat what she makes 3 times a day? And his answer was, I can't. And the real answer was, I won't. And when he had the death-defying heart attack, even then, he woke up from surgery and said, I never want to have this kind of excruciating pain again. Help me go vegan. And so that was, it was actually around Halloween, because all the ICU nurses were dressed in their costumes and everything. And I got pictures of that. And so we had a vegan Thanksgiving, and I was so stoked and just hoping it was going to last, but it didn't make it through Christmas.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. It's not funny.
It's just like I spent a month in ICU with him.
That's very frustrating.
I'm intent, the cardiac rehab. And, I asked the nurses, how much would this cost if Medicare wasn't paying for it? And a couple of nurses actually agreed, saying about $1 million.
Yeah.
So that's not sustainable. It just isn't. And so that's really what hatched the idea to write the book, just dealing with that. Hey, Reggie. Reggie, who knows all about that. Good friend.
I read the G+ thing. Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, it's just, you have to be able to come to agreements. That's the starting place, especially if you are both, if one of you is vegan and maybe becomes vegan in the relationship, hopefully the partner will see what you're doing and just want to come along. But if they don't, you've got to set some ground rules, like, who's going to do the shopping, who's going to do the cooking. I don't want meat in my refrigerator. You got to set all those ground rules, or it really becomes World War III. Yeah, which it did.
Yeah, but that wasn't the only reason why you guys are no longer a couple.
Yeah, I mean, this Kitchen Divided was my second book out of 6, and who knows? Oh, thank you. That's so sweet, Reggie. Appreciate it. It's, you just never know what direction life's going to take you. And I was really hoping he would kind of come along to the party, but when you have heart disease, before you have bypass surgery, which he eventually did when he had his heart attack, and you go on the heart lung machine, your brain is starved for oxygen. So the short story is he became paranoid and delusional.
Yeah.
And I came home from a business trip, a book tour trip. He said, and I don't want to say too much because actually I've signed an order saying that I won't specifically talk about him. But, you know, I've had
Liz is married to an author.
We don't know exactly who we're talking about. The short story was, he said, I have a gun in my drawer and I'm not promising I won't use it on you. And so I then grabbed my purse, went to the police station, filed a police report. They went back, confirmed everything that I had just said. And, you know, I have a police report to this day. And that's really all I have left of that relationship because I never went back to my home again. And so, you know, it's so important for people to understand what can happen if you don't go on a whole foods plant-based diet or at least a vegan diet, because all of this cholesterol floating around your heart also ends up in your brain and other parts of your body, which is why I eventually, once I had a wonderful vegan relationship, wrote the book Vegan Sex. So what's good for the heart is good for other parts. That's the short story, and I'm sticking to it.
That was a big leap. Go ahead, Nora.
How long were you married to your ex, Ellen?
13 years.
Okay, so he's not the father of your children, right?
No, and that was, oh my gosh. You know, it's so weird when I moved out was mow down the organic garden.
Well, okay, so I don't have the exact quote, so I'm paraphrasing, but the writer, essayist Anne Lamott once wrote or said, if people want writers to be kinder to them in their writing about them, then they should have treated them better. So I was like, basically, you know, and I would say that was smart of your ex to realize that, you know, this is fodder for another book.
Are you sure that author wasn't Taylor Swift?
Yeah, I want people to know that we're not making a leap to when your partner doesn't go vegan, that a gun's going to be involved. Like that's a big leap. So, but maybe, I mean, people do get upset. Food is a big, big deal.
It is.
You know, there's an emotional connection. There's the tasting. There's the camaraderie with like people. We associate food with relationships.
Right.
You know, for some people, first of all, Boom is here from the other side of the world, so from Bangkok. So thank you for joining us. And he's 31 and eats vegan twice a week and find it very healthy for myself. So it's very cool. Thank you for watching and joining us, because I'm pretty sure that he comes in when he can to a whole bunch of our shows. And you know, that comment that Deb just said I put up about similar to smoking, less as an ethical as well as a health aspect. They won't stop, quit. And you're right. People don't like to give things up. And when you're in a relationship, I'll go to drinking. An alcoholic has friends that are alcoholics. They go to the bar, they socialize, they have a great time. And then the alcoholic says, I have a problem, and starts going to AA, getting help and counseling, whatever they need to do, and stops drinking. And suddenly finds that they have no friends because the friends don't like the straight and sober person.
Right.
Because that's not the fun alcoholic person that they, and you've decided to stop doing something that is clearly not good for you that all of them continue to do. Right. Well, I guess us vegans have a little bit of that. Hey, we're doing something really healthy for you. You should do it too. Why don't you do this? What are you eating? Bah! You know, newbie vegans are like in your face. And I can see how that could be annoying. I can see how people who you were friends with liked going to the steakhouse with you.
Right.
They like being able to go out to eat with you without having to take 30 minutes to an hour to figure out where you're going to go. What menus? What do you have? What works? Will you be able to eat? Is it going to be a problem? You can ask a lot of questions. Am I going to be embarrassed by you because we're going out to eat together?
That's so funny.
Go
Like
ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that the analogy with being sober, being somebody in a relationship who's encouraged your partner to go sober, sorry, to become sober, is a good one, because I think there is a lot of that. I don't want to say that meat eaters are miserable, but I think that mentality of misery loves company, or people love to hear good things about their bad habits and that sort of thing. Nobody wants to be the Yoko Ono of of friend groups, you know. But a lot of times it's just so. You know, it's very difficult, as we all know, all of us here, and I imagine most of the speakers, or most of the commenters there. It's just very hard to suppress this passion when you know, and as we also know with how just serious everything is and permanent, you know, a lot of these issues are, and deadly. We don't have a lot of time to mess around and to pussyfoot around all these conversations, you know. So I do get it. I think you know, I was lucky in the sense that, well, I was very lucky. And when I met my husband, we were both. It was 95 when we met. We were both vegetarian. 93, sorry, we were both vegetarian. And when I went vegan in 95, I just called him and I was like, John, we should go vegan. And he was like, okay, cool. And so that was it. We got very lucky. But I have definitely worked in non-vegan environments. And, you know, I think that sometimes in relationships, just like how it can be very hard to talk to a parent about going vegan, but they might listen to a doctor, or they might hear what some like TV doctor says or whatever. I think it just, you bring all this baggage into relationships about like control, or not wanting to be wrong, or not wanting to admit that the other person was right, and all of that stuff. So it can be very hard to get an honest response from someone when presenting this in a relationship. You know what I mean? Kelly, was your is your partner vegan?
Yeah. So when I met Ray, I was a vegetarian.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't even really think about ethical stuff. I'd been vegetarian for years, and then I got pregnant about 9 months after we met and started eating meat again. And then fast forward to 8.5 years ago, and I saw a poster on the subway, and that was it. It was about mom pigs singing to their babies, and that got me. And I remember, I think I said it like getting off the subway. I'm like, oh my God, the poster! I got to go vegan, and I did. And it was, you know, somewhat of a journey. Like maybe 8-10 months to eliminate everything. But when I went vegan, and it was just like, okay, I'm vegan. But I knew I was very passionate about the topic. Like I knew that this was like my life. And so like the whole transition of the house, first it was like, okay, I'm not cooking for you, to, okay, it's not in the house, to, you know, and it just progressed, right? And Ray is very much an intellectual and a debater. So you know, so he like, there was just that constant, you know, rebuttals, right? So, but when he went vegan a year after me. It was not for ethical reasons. It was we watched Cowspiracy, and he went vegan for environmental reasons.
Same with my husband originally.
Yeah, you know, but then I took him to vigils. We went, you know, and obviously the ethical part came very quickly. And my son vegan just a couple weeks after Ray. So I was very lucky that we've had a vegan house for quite a long time.
Do you think that it was helpful for you? So like me, my personality type, I think I would get annoyed by someone asking, like pushing back on it. But do you think that it was helpful for you to think through some of the challenges that he was presenting?
Well, he was asking me questions that I didn't even really know. Like he was like,
Right.
well, gelatin, the whole like, like the byproducts has nothing to do with the meat, and like, and he just things that I hadn't really thought about. To me, it was just
Right.
like it makes sense to be vegan for ethical reasons, and that's it. So I didn't really think
Right.
about like industries, right? So I didn't really know how to answer my answer was always, you know what, I don't care. I don't care, right? Be vegan. It's the moral thing to do, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter about gelatin, like,
Well,
that gelatin's going to continue to exist because of this. And like, I don't
Right.
care. Be vegan. It's the moral thing to do. And that was
Right.
always my response.
It is interesting though, because some people are more philosophical, I guess, with the approach and just like much more measured and, thinking through it. And others of us, not that we're not intellectuals also, but are just like more heart centered with it. And it's just like, it doesn't matter. A cow could die on my front lawn and I wouldn't want to eat him, of course, because that's not food, So hi, Bree. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Let's see.
You say your name like the cheese?
I'm thinking, yeah, Brie Best. What a great name. They motivated me to take the leap, the best decision I've ever made. Oh, that's amazing. I think, taking that motivation from vegetarian to vegan is an easier jump.
Yeah.
Because you could be mostly the way there if you're not eating eggs or you're not eating dairy or something. So I think that really helps as opposed to like someone who actually is an omnivore. And Deb will get to the liberation pledge in a sec. If someone is an omnivore, like Steven's an omnivore. Nobody knows that. Everyone doesn't think that. I mean, why would you think that? He doesn't ever eat animals when we're together and we do all the stuff that we do. But he hasn't made that leap and he's watching. So would I want him to? Of course, he knows that. But I love what Kelly said. It's the moral thing to do.
Exactly.
It is.
And when you
It
have that's the thing, when you have that as your foundation, is this premise of the morality, then nothing shakes that, because like anyone can come up any day and say, well, I heard eggs are good for you, or this or that, or is it so bad to eat this, is it so immoral but like when you have your foundation that it is unethical to harm other beings needlessly in ways that also compound suffering of humans, there's no way around it, no mental loops that you can jump through that justify it. So in some ways, like kind of having that that very strong ethical basis, even though it might seem like, oh well, it's just a feeling, it's not intellectual, and but in many ways I feel like once that was cemented for me, and Kelly, like you, that first year I was kind of like in and out and figuring it out, but once I saw the footage of like dairy cows and chickens in egg farms, I could no longer hide from the reality that these industries are as violent or worse than the meat, or as violent. We're not here to quantify cruelty, but once that was firmly implanted, because I could no longer hide from it, then it was just like, I'm not playing games anymore. This this is what it is. So
yeah, that first year for me was just like the morality part was there. It was just the addiction part. It was like, how do I replace? How do I learning to be a vegan, learning how to cook vegan, right? Just finding resources and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's an important aspect of all of that. And that's why it's really important, I think, as vegans, that we are not I mean, one of my personal peeves, I guess, is when people add on all kinds of other avoidances or whatever, like foods that are off limits, like nuts or seeds or soy or gluten or whatever. When vegans do that, to me, that adds so many roadblocks to something that already seems so out of reach. So yeah, no, I totally agree. I think we absolutely need to remove as many obstacles as possible. And like I appreciate that, Boom mentioned, he has 2 vegan meals a week. Nobody like jumped down it. Why not 3? Why not 10? Why not every, it's like we're all we're moving. Progress is progress, right?
I think we have evolved so much because of technology. And when I was a TV reporter, I would have salivated to have a little device like this that would get me into places where, we would go undercover and we would devise these crazy ways to put a camera in a canvas purse with a lens on one end of it or under a baseball cap. I mean, just weird things that we don't have to do now. And because it is so easy to see what goes on in the factory farming world, or just in the case of if you've ever breastfed as a female, imagine your baby being ripped from your breast, which is what happens to any cow. Those kinds of things, and having, I think, what the most compelling line is, as I think back on what makes people make the switch, is I won't do what I'm paying somebody else to do. If I'm not prepared to do that, why would I pay somebody to do something I wouldn't do?
Right.
So, some people get there faster now than they did in years past,
So much
but
easier now. Yeah.
some people, but not everybody. And, it's like when you hear that somebody hasn't gone vegan, you just want to like say, have you seen this movie and that movie and this movie? And, you're thinking that's going to be the golden ticket.
Right. Well, and everyone's, like you said, Kelly was motivated by an ad, like a 2-dimensional ad she saw. My process was many conversations with people who were animal rights activists. How about you, Helene? What was your process toward
Oh my goodness. I moved to North Carolina. Now I'm talking to someone who lived in New York and lived in Northern California. So it didn't click for me there. The vegans in Northern California were wacky, like really wacky. And that didn't make it, not all of them that I met, but they were wacky. And it was not, I wasn't there. I just wasn't there. We're talking also somebody that's been in this world for, I'll be 53 in December, and I went vegetarian at 19. So it's been 30-ish more years, 11 of which were vegan. I just passed my anniversary 5 days ago of me turning vegan, because thank you for Facebook memories. And I ebbed and flowed. See, one difference with Kelly and me is I was vegetarian, but I already understood animal rights. Right. I went into the vegetarian part having dated and met an animal rights activist at 18 years old who was going and marching in New York City. And that's a long time ago now. But I understood PETA. I understood that we needed to protect the animals. I understood cruelty-free and was vegetarian, like cruelty-free vegetarian. So my products were cruelty-free way back then. So I kind of, I had my journey and my path, which is why I go back to Stephen. He's inundated with veganism. We live and breathe it every single day. It's how we survive. He'll get there. I have no doubts he'll get there. He 100% understands the impact on climate. He's highly intelligent. It's his choice.
Everyone has
my choice for him.
Everyone has a process.
Yes. So what his process is, for all I know, he's made the decision and he just isn't telling me. I don't know because there's no way for me to know. We eat vegan. The house is vegan. We go out, eat vegan. He goes off and he may be eating animal products when he goes off on his own. Don't ask, don't tell. It's kind of, I guess, because obviously I don't like it because I understand the impact on your body. I understand the impact on the planet, and I hate the impact on the animals. But it's human, and I love him, and I guess that shows you that work, but obviously it's more my rules than his,
Right.
which may or may not work for every person. Because I don't want it in the house. I certainly don't want it cooked in the house. I don't want things cooked in this house when I'm not here as well. When a pet sitter comes that's not vegan.
Right.
I'm like,
Yeah.
it's a vegan household. There's vegan all over my kitchen. There's signs and art. It says vegan for the animals, vegan. It's all over the kitchen. It's hard to escape if you're in my house.
I mean, a kosher home would be respected. Why not a vegan home? You know, it just like people wouldn't ask, can I just bring something in from outside? You know, I think there are a lot of personality types, or a certain personality type, I should say, that really is resistant against the idea of, for lack of a better word, labels, and they want this escape hatch. They don't like, and we all have seen vegans try and fail, or you know, I think there's a lot of people who just don't want to make it official, but are virtually, you know.
That was Ray for a long time. He was, you know, essentially vegan, right? You know, he didn't really remember last time he ate an animal product, but he didn't declare himself a vegan until I'm not too sure when it was.
Do you guys remember? Can I say this? Like, just popped in my head. Did you guys ever watch the U.S. version of The Office with Steve Carell? And there's like a famous clip where he believes that all he needs to do to declare bankruptcy is open the door of his office and yell, "I declare bankruptcy!" But like, when you said that about the declaration, I'm just imagining people going, "I declare I am vegan!" You know, that would be really funny. Anyway.
Oh my God. Is that like declassifying confidential documents? Then I just declassified them. Because I can think it. I can think it and it can happen. Sorry, I went there. I couldn't help it. So you got to know where we fall politically. So
I think it's like knowing that you're on that path, like you're making that dedication to that path versus like, oh, I can eat vegan. I can do this. You know what I mean? It's like that dedication that this is the way you're going to live. I think that's sort of like the declaration, like for Ray, right? It's like, yes, this is me from now on.
Right.
So is it more difficult for guys? And this is a great question. Is it, do you think it's socially, culturally more difficult for guys? And let's just like get Ray's thing. Sometimes the kitchen and dining room are vegan documentaries watched in the living room. We already knew we liked him.
The Game Changers really put out there that you know, vegans can excel, as I like to say, plants enhance. I mean, that's been my whole thing with running, is just to prove we aren't weak. And yet I think when guys decide on their own, I mean, that was sort of the charm of my current boyfriend, is that, as I like to describe him, he's a self-taught vegan, and they're a rare breed, really. But he was motivated for health reasons for his son, and was looking all over for answers, and that he just kept coming back to it. And then once he made that transition, it's like, you know, everything else fell into line ethically, and it wasn't a far stretch. But I think because he's successful in the business world, it's not something that he does stand out in the window because, you know, he's a real estate agent, and if some of these people knew, you know, they may not do business with him. On the other hand, he doesn't hide it. And, you know, we're having a Halloween party at the office tomorrow, and it's going to, as they always are, 100% vegan. And he will announce to the group, whoever shows up, that everything is vegan. So, but on the other hand, I think just it's harder only because it's just not as, at least historically, hasn't been as accepted. I think because athletes, especially male athletes, have made it more acceptable now. It's easier that way, and maybe there's not such judgment. But I think for guys starting a while ago, before it became more acceptable.
Well, and Carol Adams has written a lot about like meat and masculinity, the masculinity myths. And I do think, maybe this is wishful thinking on my part, but I think as younger generations are now less buying into the gender norms, like the gender binary, this is what masculine is, this is what feminine is, maybe there's less anxiety around. But yeah, I definitely think that older generations especially have anxiety about it, of men, because that was very deeply entrenched, the whole like beef does a body good or whatever it is. Not beef does a body, like cowboy cult, like cowboy culture shows up in such bizarre, deeply entrenched ways in this country.
It's in business. I think for men in their personal lives, being vegan is easy. I feel like in business, I found a lot of men, like when they have to go to a travel for
Yeah,
business or
yeah,
business meetings, like where they involve food, they don't eat vegan because it's just too uncomfortable
right,
to say I need to eat vegan at this meal or travel and be vegan, that they just kind of put it to the side and then they come back to their lives and they keep moving forward. I mean, that could
right.
be anybody because business and food is incredibly uncomfortable. I've had very uncomfortable experiences as a vegetarian as in business meals. And but as you grow older, maybe it is growing up, you learn to
Mhm,
speak up for yourself, and then it's
mhm.
okay for you to have your boundaries and what you feel and what you are. And
Right,
that if you were allergic to seafood and
right.
your
Just eat that
restaurant,
shrimp.
your business is
Mhm.
a food restaurant and it'll kill you to eat the food, you're not gonna eat the food. You're gonna say, "This is going to kill me." So,
Right,
can we either pick a different restaurant if we make sure they can make me something with no seafood in it?
right,
Like, you'd speak up.
right.
So, even if you're male.
There's actually been research done on this topic of ordering with as a vegan or vegetarian, I guess, with non-vegans, and the most success you can have, not only with being comfortable, but with influencing other orders at your table, is to order first. Look at the menu, figure it out ahead of time so you're not like asking 50,000 questions to your server. Even call or email. It's just so easy now behind the scenes to get that work done. Then when you come in, you can place a beautiful order that won't be awkward. And I have fun. I don't know about you guys, but when I order first, a lot of times people in mixed groups will say, "Oh, that sounds really cool. I'm going to get that." So it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, when it
We've
arrives, then
got
they really
some
want to eat it.
yeah, then they, like, eat your food, and well, I'm that
No,
person
no,
where we
no, no,
order
no,
food.
no,
We
no, no,
we
no.
order food, and, like, Steve and I'll get multiple things, and the thing that he ordered is in front of him, and the thing that I ordered is in front of
Yeah,
me, and I like his better, so so I don't end up eating what I
right,
ordered, I end up eating that, and sometimes I, eat I don't want either. So
right.
they both go to him, and they'll eat like the third dish that we got. So let me see what
Mhm.
else. I go to any
A lot
restaurant,
of
they usually
it
make a vegan dish
has to
regardless where I
do
go. That's awesome. Lala. I would love to know if you're male or female, because that would be something. And of course, Stephen is watching, so here's what he said. Let me support you in everything you do. 100%. I love our life together. I'm 98.97% there.
So
So
it begs asking, what is it going to take for the
yeah,
1%?
1.03%.
I didn't say it. You got to answer to Ellen. You will see Ellen a week from Saturday, so you can have your answer
You don't
then.
tell me now, I'm going to pester you.
Race and climatarian was a stepping stone to ethical veganism because climate science didn't have a sentimentality that clashed with masculinity. It's foolish when men still need to be stoic. That's a really good point because climate does impact all of us,
Mhm.
and what you put on your plate will impact the climate.
Right.
So
Mhm.
that's a really great point, Ray. Thank you for that.
I
You know,
think
Oh,
there is
female. Okay, there we go.
when I
Good,
worked
Rilla.
at Smith Barney, You know, that was as corporate as I could have gotten at that point in my life. And I had my McDougal cups in my desk, and the only choice I would get on the working lunch pizza was the topping or the salad dressing, and I would usually just eat the salad. And we had steak dinners at Morton's, and you know, I didn't hide it. I mean, I was very outspoken. I mean, it was one of 5 women in an office of 40 guys, so I was already kind of an oddball. Anyway, I didn't make apologies for it. I would say I'd do this for medical reasons. I mean, nobody questions you, just to kind of keep, if I needed to keep the conversation short. And I tell the story, and if I've said this before here, you tell me you're telling us the same story again. But at Disney one year, went there with a large group, and we were at a table, and I just said, I'm allergic to dairy. And then the head chef comes out and makes me sign a waiver, understanding I'm making food in a kitchen that has dairy.
Right.
You know, I thought it would kind of short circuit the, you know, getting what I wanted, because when you say I'm allergic to dairy, you know, that sends off a very clear signal as to what it is you want.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I find that, I mean, of course there are jackasses everywhere, but I find that the more comfortable and confident I am with it, and the less I kind of feel like I've got to, like, you know, be sneaky about letting people know that I'm vegan. I mean, I'm so out at this point. I'm like Liberace. but I mean, not that he was. Never mind. There should be a better example. But anyway, but the point is that I think the more confident and comfortable you are with being vegan, the less that kind of thing can affect you, you know. And I can't speak to relationships just because I've always been with it. I mean, since I've been vegan, I've always been with a vegan. So
that's really interesting, because I'm trying to think back of like when I went vegan, and I've had 2 jobs in between, and there's only been one guy that was like an absolute like jerk, like, you know, like going out of his way to make comments. And so, you know, I would just make a comment back, right? But everyone else were like, all the men that I worked with were actually like very respectful.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. I think that generally, yeah, like I said, there are jackasses here and there, but I think generally people, it's especially less and less of a big deal these days. You know, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, with Ohala talking about Ultra, you know, Rich Roll, wasn't his book Finding Ultra, or Brendan Brazier, maybe it was his. Yeah, I get the books confused. Thrive Diet. Both of them are ultra marathoners, and have been great role models for the distance running and performance. And you know, I've talked long and hard about all the running that I've done. I'll be 70 in 3 weeks, and a runner for 41 years, vegan most of that time. So the recovery is amazing. The inflammation is so minimal. You know, recovery is just a breeze, especially on these longer distances, or, you know, the shorter sprints, which I do now too. And, you know, it could be kind of a game changer for people who are eating an animal-based diet, because I know 2 runners locally who, one is in my age group, the other is 10 years younger, both with cancer. And, you know, we need to be able to corral our immune system to fight all the things that have come our way and are coming our way. You know, I mentioned to Helene that I'm re-upping my PCRM Food for Life designation as a cooking instructor, and I'm watching all these videos, and just kind of the studies that are coming out now are really amazing, especially like COVID. Your odds are better to not get it, or if you do, less severity on a whole foods plant-based diet. And just, you know, cancer is just basically, it's not a guarantee, but there are so many types of cancers that do respond to vegan diet. And it's just pretty amazing to see all these studies now. I used to say there's no money in broccoli because there's no broccoli corporation or association, but you know, there are now finally these studies that are jumping into these very hard to study topics because there is no drug behind it. But these studies are being done, and the results really look promising on so many levels.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a very expensive and long process to get these studies done. So that's, yeah.
And you need to look at who funded them to really know if it's a real study or a good study.
Right.
If you're really doing research, which probably people are just going to the internet and looking some stuff up. And you can get any answer multiple ways to any question. What does Susan say? Let's see. Want to give your body every advantage for health and longevity.
Right.
That's
what years ago I interviewed Dr. Esselstyn for an article I was writing, and he said something that just always sticks with me. And he's like, he just said it in a very compassionate but very, straight to the point way. But he said, all of us may have genetic components to disease, like, maybe we're born with more of an inclination to heart disease or diabetes or whatever it is. So, you can think of it like all of us is born kind of with a gun next to us. Now, do we load that gun with bullets, or do we just let the gun, or, like a gun without bullets isn't really going to do anything to you. But a gun, when we eat the things that contribute to disease, we are effectively engaging those genetic components to, suffering or early death or whatever. So just like, don't load the gun. There's so many things that could take us down. So
I don't know if it was his quote directly or, it's been widely said in so many different talks, but genes load the gun, lifestyle pulls the trigger.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's a great way to do it. And Ray, that last 0.03% is about identity. And, most of us are shopping for new identity. I don't know. I might disagree that many people are looking for a new identity over the course of their lives. Let's see, Deb, I've experienced that once someone civilly says that they are vegan at a restaurant. It makes it easier for more timid folks to speak out, and also who otherwise would have stayed silent and just ordered salad. That is true. There's a great and good saying. There is having support in company or supportive people, even if they're not vegan, who are dining with you, really helps. People who just enjoy food and will eat with you so that you can go. Like, the best way to Veg Fest is my saying this year. The best way to Veg Fest is to bring a whole bunch of people and get all the food so you can try everything. Don't just come with like one or two people. You need to come with like groups of people, which is good for the event, but there's so much food. There's no possible way that you can eat all of it. But if you come with 5 different people, you can get everything and share it. And if you're a person who shares food with those
I
people.
think that so many restaurants now have a vegan section of the menu, or they have a V symbol that is vegan, or in some places, and we at restaurants a fair amount, they'll have a separate vegan menu. It is, as somebody said in the chat, it is pretty recognized now. It's so much better than it was.
And I do think, I think it's really important for those of us who are comfortable doing it, just use the word vegan. If you get like a glazed over expression that people don't know what you're talking about, that's fine. That's less and less common these days. But yeah, we need to use the word just to make the path easier for everyone else and to, get the word out, there's nothing to be ashamed of. This is a proud thing, so be proud of it. Be loud and proud, but not obnoxious, which is not an easy thing.
Waiters sit down and ask me for more information. It's really, I find to be kind of a fun experience to, depending on your audience.
Right.
Share it.
Well, let's see what Bria had to say to that. Dr. Greger, Dr. Bernard, Christy Funk are wonderful, reputable plant-based doctors to look up. I have like a little thing to say about Dr. Greger, but I'll save it. Just remind me to say it. So eventually, maybe not in public like this, but I have some stuff to say. All right. So,
I just want to
there's
say,
a little teaser.
is amazing. I just heard her for the first time today in the series of videos that I was listening to for PCRM. I'd heard of her, but truly one of the most educated, articulate doctors I've ever heard speak. I mean, Neil Barnard introduced her saying
Christy
that
Funk.
she was his favorite vegan doctor. Now, for Neil Barnard to say something like that was pretty cool. But if she has a breast cancer institute somewhere, and it's just
I haven't heard of her. So
yeah, I didn't either. If you could ever get her as a speaker, whoa, just
okay.
really.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you for that, Bree. Really. So I guess what we've again skirted our conversation around the outside and dived in a little into our main topic, because that's just what we do. We go all over the place, and all the questions and comments.
Yeah,
Seriously, thank you. That just puts us in wherever directions we're going to go, and makes it so that you're part of the conversation, which we greatly appreciate. Not that we couldn't carry the conversation, but it's more interactive when we know you're watching and you're joining in, and that's how we want it at the Stew Crew. So if you're living in a divided household or you're working someplace where there's non-vegans, I don't know if we helped you, but you're welcome, Gail. I guess we kind of did, but we could probably touch on the subject.
There's no like hard and fast rules. There's not like insert tab A into slot B and everything will be fine. It's like, we need to get comfortable with the fact that the world is not always so neat and tidy. And, sometimes shit happens and often it doesn't. Often good things happen. So.
Now, I admit that I did a lot of things that had we been in a position now, I probably wouldn't have done, like withhold sex and things like that, like things that yeah. So, it's always learning.
This has been a great conversation. Yeah.
It's a really great conversation. And that's why we do this, because it's a really great conversation. Okay. Yes, we do like to stir the pot. We do. That's why we're the vegans too. All right, ladies. Well, Stew Crew, thanks once again for a lively talk. And I'm going to close out our show and say thank you, Marla. And thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Ellen. And it's good to know other vegans are handling these situations. Thanks. You're welcome, Deb. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, thank you for another episode of the Vegan Stew. And next week, I'm pretty sure, is the first Wednesday of the month, which means it's time for Coach Kayla with her monthly show. And we'll be back the following Wednesday with some topic of conversation. Maybe Halloween that we didn't touch on at all. We meant to and completely gone. So maybe we'll talk about what, 2 weeks after Halloween, what it's like for, vegan candy, or what it's like for all of you. So we are, let's see, Susan, we are every week except for the first Wednesday of the month. That's Coach Kayla. And thank you, Bree. And thank you, Reggie. And Lala, thank you. And and Ray, we love you too. And be kind to one another. Thank you, Noda Foods, for sponsoring an all-hour. We are 7 p.m. Eastern time, Susan. First Wednesday, every Wednesday is over the first Wednesday of the month, and then Coach Kayla 7 p.m. So you get your medical type health questions answered with Coach Kayla, registered dietitian, on the first Wednesday of the month. So you can't miss out on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. And there we go. Lots of love going on. You're welcome, Susan. Lots of love going on in the chat. Check it out. So go to virtualvegfest.com, enter a contest, hit the contest tab to win cool prize packs. We do that monthly. You have 5 more days of the month to win one of the October ones. And we just want you to be kind and be healthy. And if you're living with someone who's not vegan, or they're living with you, if you're not the vegan person, then compromise is the way relationships work, right? It's just food. but we're on the ethical side. So I wouldn't say that to the vegan person. I would say that to you as the non-vegan. It's just food, and the food is absolutely incredible. Anything you can eat, I can eat vegan. And I just so happen to be in my humane meat shirt from Compassion Company, who has a shirt that says anything you can eat, I can eat vegan. And he'll be at all our festivals closing out the year. So plug for Compassion Company, go check them out. But just be kind and get along with one another. If you truly love one another, you can make it work, without a gun, like Ellen said. So hi from South Beach. Hi, Boomer Beyond Wellness. Thank you for joining us. And thank you, Deb. I'm trying to close out the show. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And we will see you in a couple of weeks. And tune in for Coach Kayla next week. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.